chance to clean up his work. Let's start first with you, Eric. How were you personally encouraged
Yeah.
by it?
So I was encouraged because you only say get cleaning to someone if there's cleaning to be done. So me as someone who needs to get cleaning, I'm not alone in this. Timothy is at least one member in my community who needs to clean up a little bit.
Okay. Well, we'll start with Senate and we'll work our way around. Senate, you go first.
Yeah, for me, the rebuke to clean what is dishonorable was an encouragement in the sense that it rebuked me. So thank you for that.
Black.
Yes, Eric, I was encouraged in my conviction that I felt from your sermon. Specifically 3:2-5, when you just said, is there any part of this that aligns with me? And so just the call to look inward was conviction, but also I think an encouragement from this text to continue to do that. Thank you.
I think the most encouraging thing to me was that there is a good reason to get clean. It's not just for me, it's also for others.
Right.
That was a good reminder.
Wes?
The most encouraging thing to me was the not just flee, but flee and pursue.
They literally just took my 2, so
We gave you extra time.
it's true.
Dig deep, brother.
You can say it in your own words.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
encouraged you most about this thing?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, not for just the others, but as a pastor, you know, the congregation that you serve as well. Like, I have a purpose, and also that when I flee, I'm not just fleeing the sin in my life, but I'm fleeing towards, you know, something holy, Jesus. So I thought that was just super helpful for me personally, because it can be easy to just think of no sin, no sin, no sin. Then you got to think of, hey, it's Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. So those are kind of the 2 big ones.
Several things, but for me, like the fact that I wasn't clean, and I was one of those unworthy, and he cleaned me up, so I can be useful. So I had to be clean to be actually useful, and the impact that has is eternal. So it's not a game. It's like it's a serious, very serious matter, and he was addressing that several times. So that was definitely something I'll be thinking about it. So thank you.
Yeah, man, I was encouraged as much as I could be in light of the fact that it's almost an indictment against the preacher to be clean, and at times we recognize that we are not, but that the most important cleaning that need take place in your life has already taken place in Christ. And so we move forward from his cleaning us in salvation through sanctification. All right, so what do you feel that, you know, could have did better?
Yeah, several things. I'd say I thrust in last minute that little thing where I said, for our purposes, I'm going to be defining cleanliness as, I forget what I said, but I was trying to clarify what it means to be clean, and I think that I could have been clear on that throughout, where it's not just like a nebulous thing.
Yeah. Okay. Senate?
Yeah, that's the one I had. I'll jump off. So from a presentation point of view, there are large sections where you're reading your manuscript, and I don't think it was so bad because you're reading it with conviction. You're trying to read it, but maybe to learn to lift off
Right.
a bit more than you did.
Okay.
mine's somewhat similar there. I wrote down just a little bit more of talking to us. It felt like you were preaching, but not necessarily defined it by preaching to the group that was here in this room. And so the eyes hovered around the manuscript or right on the ground. And so just more of that engagement to us, I think, is just one way to improve.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could add to that without taking one of mine away, is some of that would had to do with you holding the Bible and standing there without standing behind the desk. Like the desk would have helped you in this regard. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind. Wes?
I'll take all the flack I can get with that. You won't convince me, but
Just, I mean, you talked about Christ and what Christ has done for us at the end, but even in the middle, we're calling to this cleaning, to be useful and honorable. It just seemed like adding in some God's promises and His grace in that, because some people it could be like, oh, I just got to do all this stuff now.
right.
Yeah, I would say, there wasn't much for leaders in here. So given that that's your context in particular, I did think it was for Christians, but I'm thinking even if I'm not a leader, but I'm a long-time Christian and you tell me I gotta clean up from the beginning, then I'm gonna be having the question, just thinking through the framework of your audience, like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, are you thinking I'm not a Christian or whatever?
Right.
So just that idea of addressing that from the very beginning, because you got to the whole thing of like, we've been cleansed at the end, but because it wasn't there till the end, I was left kind of hanging like, are you saying like I need to get saved or something?
Right.
So.
That's good.
Yeah, so I mean, you repeated a lot of things, which was helpful, but there was also a few times where you repeated things and you said it differently. So like me, as I'm writing it down, I was just like, ooh. I stopped and I was like, okay, now I'm focusing on how to mesh that in my head, and then I kind of lose track of what you're saying up there, and then I have to get back onto listening to you up there. So I mean, just be careful on especially longer things if you repeat them
Right.
differently.
Yeah, there's one long sentence that I wasn't intending to be written down, but
Right.
I know I said it differently. At least one. I'm sure there are multiple, but that's good.
Verse 22 talks about along those who call on the Lord from pure heart, and also you mentioned the other one in 3:5, avoid such people, but I don't know if you mentioned that. It's like a context that I see. I don't know if that's true because I didn't see the passage deeply, but it's very similar to Titus. So I don't know if that there is that context. So avoid those people, but also hang out with this ones.
Yeah. I found this to be particularly challenging for me in that it was a lot of text. It's like, how do I do this in 25 minutes? So I received that. I don't know how to do that yet.
Yeah, so mine is in alignment with kind of what Jeremy said. In the beginning, if I felt that it was almost implying that you gotta clean yourself up in order to be saved.
Right.
And I'm not sure
Yeah.
waiting until you get to the gospel connection, which was very good.
Right.
But how many people are gonna hang on the line with you
Right.
for that long? He said, "Well, I don't stand a chance."
Yeah.
Well, I'm messed up. I knew that it would come, but
My tendency before I came to the course was to gut the text by going to the gospel. So I might be overreacting to my natural tendency, which is to preach grace so fast that it's like, okay, I don't have to do anything.
Right.
When I felt like this whole text is like clean up. So
I think
I
that
still
this is a
receive
great
that.
opportunity to practice that, that balance in between
Right.
works and grace.
Right. That's good.
We definitely have to do it. All right, Senate, one more.
So I like the gospel connection, but I had a question. So I observed you into 1 Corinthians 6,
Yeah.
which is to Christians.
Yeah.
Here Paul's writing to Timothy, and how in your thinking you understood all of that.
Yeah.
And was there not something in the text that could help you get to that closer move?
Right.
Well, but with that, I like the way
Yeah.
you're working the gospel.
I was trying to go, since I was so focused on cleanliness, to like some sort of clear statement of washed or cleansed. So I get what you're saying.
The idea of uselessness, I guess I was wondering when that would be fleshed out a bit more as it relates to even the destruction, the snares, the judgment that's here for the false teachers.
Right.
And the biblical context there with Exodus 7, I know you didn't have a lot of time, but it was quick.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a way to use that to diversify and deepen some of this, just not get clean, stay clean, but
Right.
hey, uselessness
Yeah.
and destruction for those who
The other side.
give themselves to these things.
Yeah.
Maybe to balance that out would have been helpful.
Full disclosure, I wasn't like super clear on what exactly was happening with that Exodus 7 text. Even though we had discussed it, I was still like, didn't exactly know how Paul's using it. So
Yeah, I would say that it was on the line of going to a lot of different passages, right? So it didn't feel like too many,
Right.
but like when you went to Revelation 19 in particular, it wasn't bad, but it seemed like you were just like, let me just talk about Jesus for a minute. And so it took us out of the text here, especially to answer your question about the magicians, the whole thing is, avoid these people, and you can problematize them by be like, but how can I avoid them? They're wrecking the church. And the answer is, well, God will wreck them, right?
But,
so
yeah.
it's a grounding in hope.
I don't
like some are going to get converted, which you talked about, but there are other. So this is what keeps us clean: is that God will take care of them. He'll convert them, or He'll judge them.
Right. So I'm not disagreeing with you, but maybe you
Right.
can help me understand it, because
Yeah.
I want to understand it. So in Exodus 7, essentially the staff swallows up the other staff. It's
Yep.
like, it just seems to be like, it doesn't seem to be like God judges them and they're done. It's just like, okay, shoot, that trick didn't work.
Right. So that's at the beginning, and then they're laying on the ground a little bit later, going, "We can't stand up against this God."
Oh, so I didn't read that far.
Right.
Because all I read was the staff. I'm like, that doesn't seem like,
Right.
I know God's going to judge them, but it didn't seem like
Sure,
this
right.
persuasive, look what God did in Exodus 7, and
Yeah.
He'll do that again, so I got to
And
keep
it's
reading.
more, because in this text, it's more like they'll be revealed to be who they really are.
Right.
And in that case, they were revealed to be useless. And in this case, they'll be revealed to be useless as well. Right. So that motivating, that thing of avoiding them, and knowing that wisdom thing, like what was like, when do we engage? When do we
Right.
leave them alone?
Wes?
Yeah, something just to help us, just like as we listen, just how does the context inform, the shape and everything that you
Yeah.
got there.
That was definitely a weakness.
I was confused a little bit on the second point with stay clean. I think it started did it start in chapter 3? Or
Yes.
was it, okay.
Yeah.
So I just didn't see too much of that in
Yeah.
chapter 3.
Yeah, so I carried the cleanliness theme over to why are you avoiding these types of people? Because, again, I'm just carrying down that theme that would be dirty, or that's how you would get swept up into some of these issues. But I anticipated that for sure, so I received that.
For me, one of the questions I would try to answer is define certain things. Like one that caught my eye was youthful passions.
Right.
It's like, what's that? We kind of have an understanding, but in each context can be different.
Yeah.
And even more if you're not a youth, like you're an old person.
Right.
I forgot about that, or you're a
Yeah.
kid. You know, it's defining to be more clear.
Yeah, so mine are kind of mechanical, so I got two short ones that make one good one.
2 for 1.
All right. So in your laying out a homiletical outline in the beginning of the passage and the beginning of the sermon, you gave a sentence, and then as you worked through, you only stated
The imperative.
2-point
Right.
memorable thing.
Right.
But I think that lends itself to what he was saying, is repeating things that, because I have it written down, and then it didn't help. Like the fact that you had that as a part of your homiletical outline layout in the beginning, it wasn't helpful at that point. So you could have just said, clean up, stay clean, and left it at that. I thought that would have been better. And I would just caution you to be careful about calling people who like to clean up weirdos.
Oh, I thought that too. Like, or wealthy people. When you mentioned wealthy people, I was like,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
you might have
wealthy
you
people.
might have somebody there, man, that cleans
I
for
like
a
the
living. That's their thing. But I'm weird because I like to wash my hands. I mean,
But we
just
know
you said you might be a weirdo who likes to clean. I thought that was funny. I said, okay.
Well, I think.
I'm like what Jeremy's saying earlier. If I upset you, good.
But please resolve that.
No, the funny thing is I actually kind of like to clean, so I'm being a little hypocritical in that. But I was trying to make the point that like it's hard work to clean up.
Yeah. I got it. And so, let's move to what things we enjoyed. Oh, Eric, what did you enjoy about your sermon? What did you try something new? You felt like it was really, it worked for you?
Yeah, I feel like I loosened up more than I have in the past. Just was a little freer up there.
Yeah, I mean, no pulpit.
I don't know if you guys like, I don't know if you guys slept last time when I was in the course, but I've done that ever since I showed up here.
What?
I've never used the pulpit. I don't know why this is revolutionary.
Remember that, bro.
Last term was all online, so I just
And like, he's preaching in the office.
in the room. Yeah, I never.
That's it.
That's what it is.
That's it.
Okay.
It's not a new
That's
thing.
That's it.
So I do it
Send
at
it.
church.
Yeah, bro, I appreciated your wedding tux illustration. So walking us through, I could see it. That was just you. It was so clear. You used those detail, and then you connected it to the text as well. So that's what's staying clean. You don't want to mess yourself up. So that was helpful. Man.
For lack of a better word, I thought it was clean. I mean, I thought it was knowable for the listener, you know? I thought it was knowable and pretty clear. Like, I was not caught off guard or confused about where we were going at any point. So to me, it seemed like very clear breaks and easy to follow. And you had me at the point where I was ready. I was like, come on, like the gospel connection, I was excited for it. I'm sure more people will talk about that, but I was just ready. I was anticipating it, so I think that was well done.
What?
Yeah, I just enjoyed the encouragement that it is hard, work into cleaning. Cleaning process is hard, which it can be bring a lot of comfort and encouragement to those who are pursuing
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, with what you were saying about loosening up, I mean, for knowing you for only, like 2 weeks, I mean, I felt like I seen who you were up there. So I thought you showed that pretty well. You were yourself.
For me, like, yeah, the introduction was great. You knew what you were looking for since the beginning, because the title, right, how to be useful in ministry. And then he, like, called it again, and then so he said it before reading the text. So when I was reading the text, I was looking to answer that question. And then he prayed, and then we go to explain the answer to the question. So I was like already engaged with, so that was good. Like even the title in the beginning, introduction was really good.
Yeah. along the same lines that the introduction was good, and anytime you can turn the introduction on a sentence and make your way to the passage where you got to the end of the story about the cleaning place and said Paul in like manner, it says the same to Timothy that you have to. I thought that was very well done, and it brought us from this story into your passage. Well done. Transition will be the point. All right, Cindy.
Under your second
Jeremy,
point,
did we call you on this one?
I think it's
I'll take
Jeremy.
both of mine in a minute.
You wanna go for it?
I'll go for it.
So under your second point, where you say, I think you're talking about the unbeliever to us, and at the same time keeping us humble. So not separating us from unbelievers as if
Yeah.
we are better than.
Mhm.
So I thought that was genius, and helpful to correct us, but also keep us very on the ground.
Eric, just a simple thing that some people don't do, but you did, and I appreciated it. Just the running application, or not that specific application, but application in the midst of the sermon, right at that moment where we're thinking about the specific point. So, for instance, are you fleeing these things? Are you pursuing these things? Right when you have us in that mindset, as opposed to coming back to it at the end and trying to get us to think through what you've said so far. So, I thought that was great.
Yeah, I'd say that one of the better things that you did, especially like thinking about your work from last year, is just your transition was like, first of all, super clear and super clean. When you moved from point 1 to point 2, you had fully finished your first point. You had led us to a conclusion, a summary of your first point. You stated what your first point was, and then you stated what your second point was, and you moved right into it. So it was very clear and smooth, which you didn't do last year. The second thing that I would say is that, see, a lot of people have said mine, but I would say you had the two good callbacks. They were essentially right after one another. So you called back to the white shirt and the Feed My Starving Children after you talked about them. Then it wasn't long, right? But it was that one little kind of back to it. We all were there, and then you just kept moving on. Good.
Yeah, I enjoy the focus on verse 21 of that you can change what group you're in, what instrument. So it's not like you're always this because you're unclean. Like there's hope, there's redemption.
I enjoyed you bringing up the questions, like he says, Paul asked this simple question, which one are you? And then you brought up just like what is it, like even like what does it mean to be clean? Who are these people? So when you brought up these questions, I just thought, yeah, that's what I was thinking, or I wasn't even thinking it, but that's a great question. So
I remember pretty clear trying to answer the question, what kind of vessel do you want to be? I like that because that also helped me to be engaged with the passage. Like, yeah, I want to be a clean vessel for the Lord. How can I do that? So then you were answering the question. And I felt unclean because I'm a sinner. So I was like, yeah, I'm not worthy. How can I be worthy? So that was what you made when you were asking the question, kind of making a break. Like, yeah, I want to be clean.
Yeah, so a lot of mine, going last pretty much sucks, as Jeremy would tell you, because everybody takes yours. Let me see, which can I edit to make it?
Come on, there's a fountain.
Yeah, so the hymn, although I would be careful with joking with my hymn.
I just wanted the organ, man.
But trust me, There Is a Fountain was an appropriate hymn for the gospel connection, so you can't miss with the hymn. I know you put that in there for me. You call my name, but that's one of those points in the message where can find yourself singing and talking at the same time if you're not careful. You turn into a black preacher then. Come on, Silly. You got one more?
Another one.
Good.
Oh, no, we already did twice.
Oh, that's two?
Right.
Yeah.
You can't encourage them all day.
Yeah.